Late afternoon sunlight spilled across the workshops of ancient Alexandria, turning the dust in the air into drifting flecks of gold. The workers of the Royal Craft District were already busy, but inside one narrow stone chamber, a very different kind of silence reigned, a silence filled with focus, not sound. Arion, the youngest artisan in the Queen's service, stood before a table scattered with bronze chisels, palm wood molds, gemstone shards, and rolls of crocodile leather imported from the deep south. Today was the day he had waited for since the moment he first held a carving tool as a child. Today, he had been chosen to help craft a sacred object for Cleopatra herself. Rumors said the Queen wanted this piece for a coming ceremony, one meant to prove her divine connection to Sobek, the crocodile god of protection and power. It wasn't merely a belt. It was a symbol meant to cross the boundary between mortal and divine. Arion's hands trembled slightly as he touched the dark, scaled leather. It had been taken from a sacred crocodile raised by priests in Fiam, tended with incense and prayers. The belt needed to reflect every ripple of its strength. Behind him, the master artisan Nesui stepped forward, his voice low but steady. Do not fear the weight of greatness. Fear only the hands that craft without devotion. Arion took a slow breath, bowing his head. He began by tracing patterns along the leather, flowing lines meant to represent the Nile, and sharp, geometric cuts symbolizing the teeth of Sobek. Each stroke required perfect precision. One mistake and the piece would be ruined, and worse, unworthy of the Queen. Hours passed. Melted gold was poured into narrow grooves. Beads of jasper were pressed carefully into place. Nesui prepared the central ornament, a crocodile figure carved from obsidian. Polished so thoroughly it seemed to drink the light, its eyes were two tiny emeralds, glowing as if alive. For a while, the workshop hummed with nothing but the scraping of tools and the faint bubbling of hot metal. Arion worked with his breath held tight in his chest. He could feel something unusual, as though the leather itself responded. As though the spirit of the sacred animal was watching. When the ornament was ready, the moment of truth arrived. Nesui lifted the obsidian crocodile, holding it as gently as a newborn child. You will set it, he said. Arion froze. Master, I am not worthy. Worthy. Nesui smiled faintly. The Queen asked for the hands that carry purpose, not age. Arion swallowed, nodded once, and took the ornament. His palms felt warm, almost burning. Maybe it was fear, or maybe it was something else, something older than the city itself. He pressed the crocodile onto the center of the belt. The moment it touched the gold-filled grooves, the workshop seemed to breathe. Shadows shifted, the air thickened, and Nesui's eyes widened. The golden lines surrounding the ornament shimmered like water touched by sunlight. It was done. Before either could speak, a fan-bearer arrived, announcing that Queen Cleopatra would personally visit the workshop. Arion's heart hammered. The Queen was known for her intelligence, her sharp gaze, and her ability to spot the tiniest imperfection. And now she would see the piece he had crafted with his own trembling hands. A hush fell as Cleopatra entered. She wore a simple linen dress, but her presence filled the room more than jewels ever could. Her eyes, dark, steady, and impossibly aware, moved across the tools, then across Nesui, and finally settled on Arion. You are the one who set the heart of the belt? She asked. Arion lowered his head. Yes, my queen. She stepped closer. Her fingers brushed the obsidian crocodile. Sobek watches over those who work with courage, she said softly. This piece carries devotion, not fear. Then she turned to Nesui. He will work in my private workshop from now on. Arion felt the world tilt beneath him. He had only hoped to avoid failure. Instead, he had been chosen. Cleopatra studied the belt once more. This will serve well in the ceremony. The gods will see it, and they will know. Arion suddenly understood why his hands had felt warm, why the leather had seemed alive. In their devotion, they had created something that was more than a royal ornament. It was a bridge between mortal craft and divine presence. That night, long after Cleopatra had left with the belt carried safely in a silk-draped wooden box, Arion stood alone in the empty workshop. The air still shimmered faintly, as if the spirit of the crocodile lingered there. He placed a hand over the table where the belt had rested. He had stepped into a legacy older than Alexandria, older even than the Ptolemies. And tomorrow, he would begin again, crafting not for a queen alone, but for the gods who watched from the shadows of eternity.